I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Well, life is like a camera. You have to focus firstly on the important, develop from the negatives, and if things don't work out, take another shot. Lights, camera, and action. Welcome to Morning at NTV. My name is Brian Mlonda, alongside three other awesome gentlemen to get your week started with the question of the day. Of course, this Monday morning, help us answer that question by going to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. Our Twitter handle is also at Morning at NTV. You can also use our SMS platform, which is 6565. A reminder that NTV Mobi is out. Just go to Google Play Store and download NTV Mobi, M-O-B-I, and you can start watching NTV wherever you can. And of course, remember that you must load data. Actually, Gonya, it can eat you, but load data and watch us from wherever you can. But also, if you online, that is ntv.co.ug/watch live. And you can go and check out also that brand new website, which is live, beautiful website. And of course, catch us wherever you can. Coming up, the stories that are shaping the headlines this morning.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Now this morning, Uganda's security authorities are currently holding 19 suspects who are planning to sow some mayhem in the city before the plot was nipped in the bud. According to security sources, those believed to be Al-Shabaab suspects who are operating a cell were found with explosive. Police publicist Fred Enanga said the explosives will be examined by experts and a detailed report will be released next week into this planned attack. The arrests come barely a week after the Al-Shabaab Supremo Ahmed Godan was killed in a U.S. airstrike. He has vowed to avenge his death.
We've expanded our investigations, of course. And we have lines of inquiry that we want to fully exhaust. Why we are doing this is that much as we managed to dismantle this terrorist cell, it was one isolated one, and sometimes the terrorists do have a network of terrorist cells. So that is what we are concentrating our efforts on. To totally eliminate. Once we eliminate the fact that there are no other terrorist cells connected to the one that we unraveled, then we will be able to have the suspects arraigned in court. We are not yet coming up with the identity of the 19 suspects for the fact that we don't want to jeopardize the investigations because this foiled attack was an attack that was quite imminent. Yeah, we've subjected, of course, the materials that we recovered onto the suspects for forensic analysis. We have the bomb experts who are going to examine report to us. That will, of course, indicate the strength of the explosives and whether they could have caused collateral damage.
And of course, here at Morning at NTV, we request you to be very, very vigilant. If you see anyone suspicious or anything suspicious, please feel free to reach the nearest police station. Now, moving on, a day after his coronation as the titular head of the Busoga, the Chabazinga Nadiope Gabula IV has outlined his course of action towards developing Busoga sub-region. From education to health and industry, once the economic pulse of Busoga, the youthful king says he's ready to reach out to his rivals to bring unity and development in the sub-region. Sheila Nduhuchire spoke to Nadiope at his palace in Kamuli district.
Euphoria swept across the entire Busoga sub-region yesterday as Nadiope Gabula IV was crowned the Chabazinga at Bugembe Hill, Jinja district. As Nadiope navigates the delicate balance of transiting from the ordinary lifestyle to the pomp and glamour that befits the titular head of millions of Busoga, today he comfortably sits on a throne which not long ago appeared to elude him.
Leadership comes from God. I was born a prince and a royal, which means I was born to serve.
Gabula is not the shy boy with a mischievous smile anymore. Today he speaks emphatically with a measured tone.
This is the time for us, the youth, to prove to Busoga, to prove to Uganda, and to prove to the whole world that we are capable of taking Busoga to greater heights.
As he begins his reign, the young Chabazinga has his work cut out as he reveals to NTV.
Busoga has had a lot of issues. For example, we are talking about an epidemic like jiggers in this 21st century, which of course calls for massive sensitization.
Gabula says he will use his position to lobby for scholarships to help the underprivileged.
Busoga as a sub-region has been performing poorly, especially in the primary levels, O-level and A-level.
Since the death of his predecessor, Wakumuloki, fault lines emerged as the son of the late Chabazinga, Prince Kolumba Swambuzi, and Nadiope fought for the Holy Grail. Nadiope says he's ready to extend an olive branch to Prince Swambuzi.
I'm going to ensure that I meet my colleagues, and the good thing is that we have been in touch for the last 6 years, despite whatever has been going on in the kingdom.
His Royal Highness Prince Nadiope Gabula IV leaves for further studies to the United Kingdom on Wednesday. Now he hopes that his reign will cement the legacy of his forefathers in working towards unity and development in Busoga. Sheila Nduhuchire, NTV, Jinja District.
Now to all our Busoga friends, I think congratulations, and finally the kingdom has a Chabazinga. Now moving on, the National Social Security Fund is reported to have lost billions of shillings in inflated purchases of several pieces of land across the country. This was after management of the fund, under one of its former director David Chandi Jamua, resolved to purchase land to construct offices. It has now emerged that the land was overvalued, while some of the others were planton and phantom purchases. Francis Jingo reports.
About 300 meters off Kibuye Round along Entebbe Road lies a sprawling piece of land which was bought by the pension body management. This small piece of land cost 400 million shillings. It could be approximately 70 by 50 feet. Questions remain abound whether there was value for money in the acquisition of this piece of land.
If you are going to Entebbe, look on the left, there is a plot there with NSSF property. That plot, you only see the front. Behind, there is nothing. Yes. My assessment would be that we overpaid.
Another piece of land was bought in Imbarara at a cost of 230 million shillings.
It is in the swamp.
The former top honcho says land purchased in Hoima at a cost of 200 million shillings was a phantom purchase.
We received a letter from the LC chairman saying that we had bought air. They bought land in Kavale, a plot. it was passing, all the sewage in the town was passing there, so you can't even use it. The one in Gulu, they went to somebody's compound and they say to sell the compound.
A total of 1.7 billion shillings was spent on land whose actual value is being contested.
The plots were not bought for good value.
However, the decision to sell this land has also courted suspicion. For instance, there was fear that the piece of land at Namirembe was sold for peanuts.
We're holding these plots as assets on our books of accounts at the cost price. For instance, Namirembe at 650 million.
NSSF's policy is to invest at least 5% of the 4.7 trillion shillings in its coffers into real estate, but Byarugaba believes the pension body should engage a paradigm shift. For instance, the much-voted pension towers along Rumumba Avenue, which has stalled, should be completed.
Assets in real estate have not been earning anything. Including
your house,
pension towers, including Lubowa, including Temangalo, including Simbe, which we have or we don't have, I'm not too sure. It did not make sense for the fund to have a huge exposure in land.
It stalled again when the former management was removed, the management of Mr. Jamwa and co. It stalled again when the design for the pension towers was changed. It stalled because a new agreement had to be signed with the architect to agree his new fees for a revised design.
A 2010 KPMG forensic audit report into NSSF indicated that much as the pension tower land was valued at 8 billion shillings by 2008, its value shot up to 30 billion shillings in a span of 2 years. NSSF also controversially bought land in Temangalo, Wakiso district, from the Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi and Amos Nzai, a businessman, at a cost of 11 billion shillings. The purchase caused a political firestorm as those baying for Mbabazi's blood asked him to resign. However, the KPMG forensic audit report puts the value of this land at 16 billion shillings as of 2010. 4 years later, the Temangalo value could be much higher. NSSF also owns land in Lubowa, and as of 2010, it was valued at 186 billion shillings.
If NSSF built all the properties that they've got, they would run out of money. They would be like the Kenyan pension fund.
Much as Byarugaba believes investments into real estate was risky for workers' savings, it is still debatable whether buying stock, for instance, in farms like Umeme, would bring in better returns.
I know that the highest amount of risk is in equities. If you invest in a high-risk environment, you get a high return. The only problem is that there is a risk you will not get back your money. So as a fund manager, you need to balance your portfolio so that you have the necessary risk to generate the necessary return.
As the House Committee sanctioned to probe allegations of graft and influence peddling continues, it's likely that more rot will be unearthed.
Well, NSSF still continues, like what some people have branded it, with its drama. We'll be following that story very closely. Now, of course, you're watching Morning at NTV, and to get more of these stories, head over to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV, and our NTV website, ntv.co.ug, and of course watch live. Now, education officials in Busia district are raising concern over the chronic absenteeism in schools, which they attribute to smuggling at the Busia border, which straddles across Uganda and Kenya. It is believed that between 500 to 1,500 children have resorted to aiding smugglers at the border by pushing bicycles for people with disabilities. We have more.
Children, some as young as 5 years, are now actively involved in smuggling at the Uganda-Kenya border. These minors help people with disabilities who stuff smuggled goods on their wheelchairs. It's a craft they have mastered at the border as smugglers become sophisticated. However, education officers in the district fear that smuggling is leading to a sharp rise in school dropouts.
Some children have fallen out of school, but the challenge has been on attendance. And as you know, when children don't attend on a regular basis, their performance, academic performance, tend to drop.
This has largely affected children at UPE schools. For each route across the border, the children earn an average of 2,000 shillings. Rice, soap, cooking oil and wheat flour are the major items smuggled from Kenya to Uganda. The role of the youngsters is to push these wheelchairs.
But some children have problems. When you try to inquire from them, they say that my parents does not want to pay for me school fees. So when I come here, I assist the PWD so that she can give me something.
Some of the children are used to move animals like goats across the border. NTV recently aired footage which showed security officers receiving bribes from smugglers to allow them move goods across the porous border.
When we get somebody has taken a bribe, and we have information, somebody gives us information, so and so has taken is demanding for money, we've arrested them.
Officials in the district want a tougher law to punish those engaging in child labor.
Now, for this law to become a law, it must be appreciated and accepted by the communities whom it's going to govern.
There are fears that these children stare a bleak future if authorities do not rein in this problem of smuggling.
Of course, Magendo has been there for a very long time across the borders. In the past, many people actually earned a lot. Tell us what you think about Magendo on our Facebook page, that is Morning at NTV, and we'll read your comments during the big story. Now, Mulago National Referral Hospital is set to implement a stringent rule that will allow only one attendant for every patient. The decision comes in the wake of concerns of the growing number of caretakers at the ill-equipped hospital. Hospital authorities say the huge number of people have made it a daunting task for the institution to provide services. Gertrude Tumusime Witware reports.
As the only national referral hospital, it is such a common sight to see hordes of people crowding the precincts of Mulago Hospital. There's a beehive of activity as relatives of those seeking treatment fill corridors and wards. The high numbers by far outstrip service provision at the hospital, which is chronically underfunded. The Mulago Hospital Executive Director, Dr. Byarugaba Batelana, says the number of caretakers stands at a ratio of 1 patient to 5 attendants.
Some you see the whole clan coming to see one particular patient, especially the pregnant one, the one who has delivered. You find a man is there with a sister, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, a relative, the former boyfriend, former girlfriend.
According to Dr. Byarugaba, this state of affairs has crippled the functioning of the hospital. Mulago Hospital was built with a capacity of 1,790 patient beds, but the number of those seeking treatment continues to grow, creating a mismatch with the hospital in an ailing state.
When they are here, they dirt in our toilets. They come in with dirt to the hospital, dirt in our toilets, use more electricity, charging their phones. You find them at night, they come and sit on one bed. Now, that's why you hear some people say that our beds are not good.
As a result, contagious diseases spread.
A hospital is a place where actually it is a collection of infection.
Criminals posing as the tenants also exploit the situation.
Some of them don't know where to get lunch, so they follow the patient so they can come and eat food either in the hospital.
This October, the hospital is to undergo a facelift as authorities mull over a solution. There are plans to impose a restriction limiting the number of attendants at the hospital.
When we shall allow 1 patient, 1 attendant.
Ekintu ekyo kyandibadde kibe ekyogoba abajjanjabi mu ddwaliro. Naye kyetaaga n'oleka abajjanjabi abamala nga 3.
Sebofa abajjanjabi tuyisibwa bubi. Kuba tulina okumanya abalwadde baffe bali batyeri nga ate batufulumya.
Okuba ekibi kwe kugoba ba-attendant si bonna, omulwadde n'asigala eri okuva ku makya ssaawa 2 paka ssaawa 7. Ne bw'aba ng'alina obuzibu talina gw'ayinza kukola ki, gw'ayinza kusanga.
Mulago introduced a policy of allowing caretakers for patients in the 1960s due to the limited number of medical personnel. Today, this policy has grown into a full-blown crisis. Gertrude Tumusime Witware, NTV.
And that is Gertrude Tumusime Witware. Let's take a breather. When we come back, have more stories and, of course, the press review. Stay with us. Now, this morning, the Daily Monitor, one of the very first stories that we look at, and of course, the gentleman at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel will let us know what they think. I regret Lukwago's censure. KCC Councillor Kanduho says that. I wonder what he's thinking. Simon, you are at the rooftop and of course with Joel. Is this a surprise that one of the councillors is now thinking, or maybe it was a bad move? Does Kampala actually need a mayor for it to move forward? Simon. All right, we apologize there. We've lost some sound from Simon. Yes, Simon. Okay. All right. When we get into, okay, we have Simon now. Simon, this story.
What would otherwise be a terrorized community. That's what we're waking up to. And the headlines in the different newspapers that we have before us are speaking to that effect. But of course, the Tri-Weekly Observer out on Monday is talking about what top chief executive officers earn from government parastatals, while the East African is indeed talking about the war on terror, why splintered Al-Shabaab worry security experts. The Daily Monitor is leading with a story on missing persons, and they're asking, where are they? Cry over missing persons heightens, and that is what we'll be looking at for the most part when we return for the press review. A very good morning once again. Welcome to Morning at NTV's press review. My name is Simon Kasiate. I am joined by Joel Senyonyi, who's smartly clad in a black suit. I'm sure you're seeing that for yourselves. But interesting shade of black, yellow, and red for a tie.
Yeah,
what was the weekend like?
It was an awesome one. We were celebrating with Mebro as she was seen off. She's now on the moon. Very excited, I suppose. She got married.
What exactly are you talking about? Mabel
Kebirungi. She's now Mabel Muhereza, Mrs.
Well, there you have it, our dear viewers. If you caught Mabel just last Friday, she was Mabel Kebirungi. When she returns, she will be Mabel who?
Muhereza.
Very good. So that's what happens when we walk down the aisle. Woman down, 1 man to go on the Morning at NTV crew. We can't wait for when Joel Senyonyi drops his name to maybe Joel Namagembe or one of those other names. I want to believe that at your age now, with the kind of seniority you have in bachelorhood, you obviously have to drop your surname for that wonderful lady's name.
We'll see about that.
You like doing things the other way around. I mean, when others are going this direction, you think it's only in vogue to go the other direction. So
yeah, it depends. Especially if the crowd is going the wrong way, you stand out. You stand out and be counted. We'll see how that goes.
So Najembe,
or Nangwachuli, now Mongoli, one of those ones.
Joe, that's quite very interesting. So you have with you the Daily Monitor this morning. What are we saying on the front page?
The lead story, like you did say, missing persons, the people that have been lost for quite a bit of time, and their families, relatives, still keeping hopes alive as they continue to trace them. Much of the time, they say, some will say that police has hope to them. Others are disappointed. They say police keeps asking for, I don't know, fuel, airtime, and so on. They say we are following up the case, but we've run short of fuel and that kind of thing. So they are very frustrated, unfortunately.
Tell me something. When a foreigner drops into this country, the first thing they read is a newspaper headline like this one. What goes on to their mind? Do they think for the moment they are just maybe in a war zone where people go missing? I mean, what's the cause of this phenomena of missing persons in Uganda, a country that can relatively be described as being at peacetime?
People go missing everywhere. I was watching a documentary, and I forget the exact number. It is a stupendous one of people in the US that, you know, have gone missing, and relatives still trace them. Somebody has tried to decode some cryptic thing, you know, kind of software that can help people try and trace, you know, their people and that kind of thing. I hope it does well.
So are they missing out of, or in our case here, is it human trafficking? Is it witchcraft? Because I see on the faces of toddlers here, we know cases of child thefts in hospitals and other places. Yes. Are they missing because we've got terror groups that are running around, you know, confiscating, a very small word, but, you know, taking away people and asking for ransom? What exactly is going on here? Are we seeing people running away from their homes, ostensibly joined rebellion and you have no idea where they are.
That could be, but I imagine that's to the niggardly point. One would think terrorists and abductions, there's a bit of that, you know, but some of these are children that feel mistreated in their homes, so they run away. Others, of course, will still have kids being beheaded for people that want to get apparent wealth. That is still happening. Many happenings therein. You know, others, of course, you know, die and a couple of things, but
undocumented. Perhaps even again, when we get down the issue of national IDs, then we'll be able to know people and possibly trace where they are. The East African coming out this weekend and going through the entire week that we begin yesterday. He's headlined with the war on terror. They're saying why splintered Al-Shabaab worries security experts. Now we're told that analysts are warning that some militant cells could stage attacks across the East African region to avenge the killing of their leader and assert its group's authority. If you want the most incisive news on the regional issues, the East African is the paper to buy. And of course, still on the front page, we are talking about Air Uganda and the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority still in talks so that this airline that carried high and flew high our national colors and flag, even if it were not a national carrier, could at least hit the skies once again. Of course, the story of Air Uganda grounded is one that is very familiar to most of you. If not, get yourself a copy of the East African and get to know the insides of what's going on at the moment.
Of course, what's still in the papers and will be for a while, the Chabazinga ship of Busoga, the Busoga now very excited that Ethiopia calls for unity as Kadaga lists Busoga demands. There's a thought that now that they have the Chabazinga, you know, many of their issues are going to get sorted out. I don't know how far that is going to be because look, the Chabazinga does not have a budget, for example. So I'm imagining the Basoga are setting themselves up for disappointment. You know, they're expecting roads and, I don't know, hospitals, etc.
No. In the Chabazinga speech, and this was contained in what many analysts have described as a very authoritative speech. You know, he's a young man with gusto and some energy to himself. But again, he spoke with a lot of reggo and subtle authority that, you know, made the point sink very deep. And in his speech, he said government should go out of its way to furnish and refurbish all health units across the country, not just within Busoga. And for me, that was very important, that this is a young man that is thinking beyond his region. Because obviously, let's face it, within his own kingdom of Busoga, it's a melting pot of different cultures. Remember, Jinja, for example, which is at the heart of this kingdom, was the industrial city, or possibly it still is, and it's a melting pot of different cultures. I, coming in from the farthest tip of southwestern Uganda, does work and for the most part possibly leave much of my week in Jinja. And when you have a person speaking a message that resonates with me who's not necessarily someone from that area, that shows you that there's some level of authority. So maybe to some extent the Basoga have been lacking that cohesive figure, one with whom they can rally around, one who can send their point across without anyone thinking that maybe they are going political or divisive. Of course, you know that the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, the Speaker of Parliament, could obviously, and has for the most part,
call her the babysitter of the Chabazinga.
Well, and I think rightly so. I mean, what are you supposed to do if you're a leader rather than try to do something as noble as what she did? But you see, if she came out and started speaking, calling for government, which of course she is also a leader of one arm of government, the Chabazinga comes off as a non-government official, telling government what is wrong with it. You see, I have a problem with people within government saying government. Members of parliament are always whinging, government should do this, government should do the other. And you ask yourself, since when did the legislature stop being part of government? You should say, we as government. No, but you see, that's the whole thing, always passing the buck. Then the executive is always blaming parliament, then parliament is blaming the judiciary, and it's just a round robin. But when you have the Chabazinga standing out of this crowd as a cultural leader and saying, look, as government, you have the budget, you've got the resources, you've got the technical nuance, do for our people what is right. Then for me, I will rightly assume my position, which is being a cultural steward.
Look, I have had talk again and again by different people calling on government to do this, to do the other, and I'm not in any way punching holes in this gentleman's, you know, modus operandi, his approach to things. Talk to government, call on them to do what they should do. We should keep doing that, and we wait to see how long the way this goes. Now, you talked about Parliament. Parliament has scrapped the tax on kerosene. This sounded like music to many people's ears. This 200 shillings increment on each litre of kerosene was... to many a Ugandan going to, you know...
What exactly do we use kerosene for?
Well, the people up country, the people who are not as well off as you, that use umeme, use it for lighting, they use it for cooking, etc., etc.
I have a home up country, and this home is not within the national grid. But as we move close, yes, I know that, I think if you put a high tax on kerosene, and you have no tax on solar equipment, for example, even rudimentary as it could be solar, you are possibly saving many people from the health hazard that's caused by burning fossil fuels for lighting and other uses. I would strongly, in my view, advocate for the removal of tax on solar items to encourage more solar proliferation, because we have an abundance of sunshine here. I mean, we have more sunshine than we can ever get oil. But here we are still stuck into the rudimentary use of kerosene, whose adverse effects are worse than those of tobacco, which this government is moving to close. I tell you, we have our priorities upside down. But well, there you have it. Parliament wants to promote the use of kerosene so that young children can continue breathing in that bad carbon monoxide and all the other bad.
They are promoting it per se.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
A good number of Ugandans are using it.
If you
we should help them to, you know, not to dig a lot deeper than they already are.
Very good. But you see, these are people. I mean, if you inhale third over smoke.
Without a doubt. But many of our cars, again, are not roadworthy, so we inhale it from there.
Yeah, but you see, no, the cars are more here where we can use women. Let's go back to the village, what we talk about, where people smoke and all that. Here you are removing a tax from a fossil fuel that would otherwise have very adverse health consequences on you. At the same time, you are slapping a very huge tax on the tobacco leaf. And so, as a way to fight smoking, which also causes fumes. And you ask yourself, between kerosene smoke and mere tobacco smoke, what would you rather inhale?
Yeah, maybe at least instead of them having both, you know, that will enfeeble them, say, okay, let's take away one.
Because you see, when you remove kerosene, you are promoting the alternative of solar. When you try to slap a ban on tobacco, what alternative are you putting? Because one thing is for sure. People, just like prostitution, no matter how much you try to clamp down on it, or even the consumption of alcohol, people will always. And guess what? Even the more you clamp down on such things like, you know, smoking, alcohol consumption, prostitution, the more people indulge in it, because, you know, as always they say, the forbidden fruit tastes what?
Sweeter, I guess so. But look, you see, with the issue of tobacco, we are having, you know, 18 and below year chaps, you know, going for it, and it enfeebles them a lot more than the older ones who are not able to, you know, these young fellows are not able to make decisions on their own, etc., etc. So it is not a ban per se. You're trying to put in place control mechanisms. You know, for goodness sake, you will keep taking your whatever it is that you like, your cabel, your, I don't know, whatever, you know, and that kind of thing, yeah? But
you know, a guy watching you from Desert Breeze Hotel in Arua, or one of those precincts of Arua, whose livelihood has depended on tobacco growing, and now he realizes the biggest consumer of their tobacco, BAT, has stopped matters of tobacco leaf in their area. We look at you and say, Joel, you have no idea what this country has subjected us to. Of course, someone watching you from a hotel in Kanungu, and I'm saying hotel, they could otherwise be watching you from the comforts of their home. They will say, look, this guy has no idea what tobacco does for this country.
Maybe. It's you that always says to make an omelette, we've got to break a few eggs. Maybe these are the ones.
Kagame says corrupt officials will refund embezzled funds, and guess what? If there is any guy who says something and I believe him, it is this man, the president of Rwanda.
And we need to emulate that. We need to replicate that here. Now we have talked about corruption, State of the Nation address. You know,
well, Joel, of course, time is not an ally on our side. We need to look at what's making it to the headlines in the Observer before we can hand over to Brian standing by in the studio. We are waking up to an interesting headline in the Observer talking about what top government CEOs, we're talking about government bodies, are earning, and I can see such a good array of funds here going into some of these, especially they're talking about the Commissioner General of URA, we're talking about the head of the Kampala Capital Authority and all the others. Talking about KCCA, the KCCA boss attacked by her own supporters. What this is it that we're talking about? There should be some storm brewing in KCCA.
It's actually related here in the Daily Monitor. I regret Lukwago's censure. This is KCCA Councillor Frank Kandu.
The last councillor to have been put on the board, one who...
To ensure that the process is expedited.
And he participated very actively in the censure of Lukwago.
It's good he's repenting of his sins. Quote of the day, this is...
No, he's not repenting. He is regretting. Let's not miss words. He should come out and say, I repent, having been part of the censure process. Brian, what's taking place on the international scene? We know that in 4 days' time, the Scottish public are in for a crucial referendum saying whether or not to stay within the United Kingdom or splitting and leaving England on its own, and they can start off their own country as Scotland. What exactly is the sentiment from this expected vote?
Well, of course, Simon, it's happening on September the 18th, and politicking is going around. One of the news agencies here talks about the dark side of Scotland's independence debate, and they're looking at the hecklers, the hackers, the tricks and trolls. And obviously, to be a politician, you must have a dark side to that. You must have some, a little bit of rough around the edges, and that's what it's taking. People are doing whatever they can. The Yes campaign is saying we'll do whatever we can to be independent. And of course, the No campaign also saying you need to stay with the UK. British Prime Minister is also going to campaign more for the No campaign. And of course, they don't want Scotland to secede. You can check out CNN for more of that. And Cameron, of course, his days are definitely long. He's not having a good time as a prime minister lately. From two American journalists, and this time they have now murdered a British aid worker, David Haynes, and ISIS is still going on. Now, the gentleman in the video is also British. He has a British accent. And Cameron brands the killers not just Muslims, as the world commonly refers to that, but he says these are monsters and Britain will stop at nothing, vowing that they'll find David's killers. We'll be, of course, here at NTV also following, but check out Sky News and get the latest. Now, one of the things coming out of the UK is Manchester United's thrashing of a very poor QPR. And lots of celebration here. We see Rooney and Di Maria celebrating. Manchester United fans across the whole world celebrating. Someone this morning saying that they feel like they've won the World Cup. But we'll be looking at that story later on Sport with Isma. Now, moving on. The war in the Gaza Strip is devastating many lives. And so what Reuters this morning is looking at is the post-war counseling that is awaiting Gaza children as they head back to school. And of course, you know, airstrikes have claimed lives in that part of the world. And so obviously most of the kids are traumatized, the fear going back to school. And before they start school, they'll be undergoing some counseling. They are very sad indeed. Now, of course, lots of stories all over the world. This morning also on our Facebook page, you can check it out. And when we return, the big story where the police spokesperson, Fred Enanga, will be with us at the rooftop talking about the imminent threat that was on the weekend and what Uganda did to turn this around. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Babe, you know you are truly an angel.
Aww.
I love your walk, your smile, your laugh, everything. You know what else, babe?
What?
You smell. Oh no, I'm out of airtime. Shops are closed. I have to wait till tomorrow before I can get airtime. She would think I was saying she smells.
Get airtime instantly with your phone.
What?
Just use Airtel Money. Dial *185 hash, select buy airtime, and follow the steps.
What?
Sorry, babe. My line got cut. I was just saying you smell better than any flower in the world.
Top up with Airtel Money and get 100% bonus airtime instantly with every top up made. Now that's 100% extra from Airtel. Dial *185 hash to top up now.
Airtel Money. Simple, secure, instant.
20 entrepreneurs. 20 companies compete to get the funding. From different skills and experience with different ideas. Who will it be? On Kickstart, proudly presented by Now Breweries. Coming soon on NTV.
The average age of the international team is under 18. And so
the primary role of Team Uganda is to Division 2.
Probably that's the only thing that can make one or two rugby fans smile, that the clubs are doing well.
The players have not put on they've not wore the game faces. They're not the animals we saw last season, because Ferguson had the same group of players, and he did deliver the Holy Grail, which is the title.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Yes, welcome back to this edition of Morning at NTV's Big Story. And yes, we are waking up, of course, day 3 after the Uganda police nipped an imminent terror attack in the bud. And yes, the magnitude of that attack, had it been allowed to, go through successfully, would have caused very devastating, catastrophic, and very far-reaching consequences and tremendous destruction. But this morning we'll be looking at this whole thing, how it evolved, how the police got down to it, and what measures are there in place for us to continue our trust and belief in the Uganda police and other security agencies to be able to protect us against the ever-looming threat of terror in this country. So far been arrested following a swoop by the Ugandan security agencies led by the police when they nipped in the bud an imminent terror attack. Explosives and other devices grabbed, suspects arrested, and now the city under the siege of protection of the Uganda police. But of course, let's not forget that warnings are going through. Be vigilant, use your eyes even more, use your intuition, and do not hesitate to report to members of the police. This morning, to discuss this and a lot more, is the police spokesperson, our very amiable, soft-speaking, but very alert friend, Fred Enanga. Good morning, Fred.
Yeah, good morning. How are you today?
Well, it would have been better if it wasn't for I am seeing a heightened security check, especially at the gate of this facility where I am. I went to shopping malls across the weekend and I noticed that there was tremendous presence of the police that is quite unseen. The streets of Kampala are littered with pockets of your officers patrolling. I'm sure some of them are in plain clothes and I would never tell the difference. And this is what Ugandans are waking up to. But against the backdrop of the fact that the police did nip an imminent attack in the bud. Sure. But of course, details are as scanty as you normally like to keep them. But just to paint this whole picture, exactly what happened over the weekend, Fred.
Yeah, sure. Of course, thank you very much, Simon. It's really true that in the last 2 to 3 days, Uganda survived an attempt, a terrorist attack, and actually within the Kampala city area.
Where do you find these pockets? I mean, are you able to discuss maybe what division of Kampala these were concentrated, or were they scattered across the city?
No, it was a terror cell, an isolated one. Of course, following how we're building on the human and technical intelligence, we were able to get to the spot of
when you say a terror cell, what are you talking about here? I mean, is it a house where terrorists are gathered up?
It's like
is it an area like, say...
Yeah, it's like a house, a site where, of course, you find a terrorist group planning and coordinating their activities from. And it's where, of course, they expect to launch their attacks from. And of course, it's usually a concealed facility, whereby they expect no one to
suspect that there's anything fishy going on.
Anyone there. So we pounced on them, dismantled the cell. We effected arrests there and then, and we were very lucky to find exhibits of explosive materials with them, and that shows you how imminent, how critical this threat actually was.
So they were beyond the planning phase, they had already now been in the phase of assembly.
Exactly.
When you say we arrested them, we dismantled the cell, and we are told that this is a terror attack that was being planned by the militant group Al-Shabaab. What kind of people did you find in there? Let's be very... And we're not trying to promote xenophobia here.
We are having a mixed group where, of course, we have foreigners as well as Ugandans.
Foreigners of what nationality?
Now, the fact that, you may want, for the benefit of the press and for us to get to open up to the public, but at this stage, I feel that for how sensitive and the fact that it is an operation that is still ongoing, because we want to, usually when you dismantle a terror cell like this, you know,
you want to see whether
usually
you
find, yes, exactly, there is a network, and sometimes you find that, yes, there could be others that are delinked, but
could
for
possibly
the
be galvanized to regroup
exactly,
and continue where the others stop.
So, yes, the public is already speculating as well as the media, but where we really have a very, very important and very significant matter like this as far as security is concerned, and that where we really need to be very successful with our investigations. Of course,
information may not be
at this stage, we are going to come out to account to the public and everyone,
parade
because it is really...
did you say some Ugandans are in there?
Yeah, it's a mixed group. Of course, they can't just come and, you know, enter Uganda without having collaborators or people, the conspirators. Of course, that is how basically it was. And the number is from 16 to 19 suspects, and we got very good leads from them, which helped us to expand the area of coverage.
It's almost a year now since the Westgate Mall in Nairobi was under some kind of siege. Are we maybe seeing that this possibly would have been a celebratory, commemorative attack on Kampala? We know, of course, that we continue to hold fort in Mogadishu and other parts of Somalia fighting off the Al-Shabaab, but we also know that we are no strangers to terror attacks. There was that time over the other football years, over 5 years ago. I mean, is there any linkage to some of this? Was it a reprisal attack because of the death of the Al-Shabaab leader that was annihilated by a combined force of Uganda and other African Union troops?
Yeah, that's a version that we are also looking at. Because, yes, you know that Uganda has highly been involved in the pacification of the Somalia area. And yes, our contributions, they have been actually highly tremendous. And yes, you know, we provided information that caused for the elimination of Godane. And that alone really can make them get that anger and would want to carry out revenge attacks and against a country like Uganda. So it's an area that we are also looking at. And
Fred, one arm of the police is following these leads, carrying out investigations, and of course carrying out the arrests.
No, it's a joint security. It's a joint security team.
Yeah, but let's just break down the issue of police here. One part of you is doing that, but then there's another that is now constantly present on the streets, pacifying facilities and reinforcing other security agencies.
Yeah, that one we do. It's usually
but we also know that you are constrained sometimes financially, even with human resource.
No, where there is terrorism, you will mobilize resources from all other areas because it's really a priority. It's a priority area.
Now you're leading me to act the devil's advocate and ask that question that is being lingered on by cynics across who say sometimes the police, when they realize that they need some little operation money coming in here, they unleash some kind of intelligence.
No,
that will
this is not fake. By the Simon, this is not
swinging
fake.
into action like this. So
no, this is not fake.
Of money can go
actually, the world over is really surprised at how Uganda pulled this off. You get it? It's very rare that where terrorists have reached a stage of carrying out an attack, because they are usually it's usually a plan that is very well coordinated and
extremely covert
and fast and very covert. So they must also be surprised on how we landed onto them at that point whereby we were even able. This has been the most successful operation that we've actually carried out, where you get the suspects within your country and they have explosives with them, and they are planning to get to move on.
In other words, you arrested them in flagranto delicto, so to speak. Almost.
Those are the legal terms. Whatever it is, I feel I concur with you.
But of course, there has been talk that in the late 90s, when there was this twin bombing of Nairobi and in Tanzania, the American embassy facility, that it too should have taken place in this country, and the Ugandan security did nip this in the bud, and that's why we were saved.
Exactly.
But you see, without sounding like we are gloating, or or without sounding like we are chest thumping, Fred, to what extent do you think that, with especially this success, can you comfortably say that you have grown in leaps and bounds with regard to your ability to infiltrate some of these terror attacks? Is it out of professional nuance, or can we say we are only simply lucky?
No, we can't. We can't say we are simply lucky. You know, Ugandans, we got a very good lesson out of the 2010 twin bombings in Kampala, and it was unfortunate for us. So that was a very tough lesson for us as the security agents. And since 2010, we've really enhanced on our capabilities. The joint security agencies involved in countering terrorism in this country have really benefited a lot from training and also in terms of capacity and equipments. And then also the level of coordination, the network that we've created regionally and also globally, we are always exchanging information. All right.
But tell me, sometimes do you, as a joint force, to what extent are you cohesive? Because of course we know that even in developed countries, the US, sometimes the CIA and the FBI will have conflicting interests, and sometimes we even have an exchange of friendly fire. You know, as a result of some of this. Do you have a central command in your operations?
Yeah, we do
people believe that you are not out there to outshine each other, that your leaders are not trying to show off that I am the guy in charge of the police, I am better than you of the CMI, I am better than you of JAT, I am better than you of ESO, I am better than you of ESO. Because we've had some of these reports that there is always a jostle for supremacy, and when that takes place at the top, of course, it has got a ripple down effect
exactly,
the boys on the ground.
Of course, people will want to know what actually takes place in the leadership of the security agencies.
Because again, without cutting you short, you remember what happened, especially after 2010. You know, we had the leader of the police moving in a certain direction, and by then I think we had Afande Majira leading CMI, also leading. I mean, we had press conferences here, another press conference there. There seemed to be some kind of disjointment, but also largely premising around egos of the different leaders.
Yeah, sure.
Is that one of the lessons that have been learned?
Of course, you'll always learn, because even just recently, the attacks that occurred in the Rwenzori region, of course, yes, there were lessons. You always learn lessons from whatever breakdown takes place as far as intelligence is concerned. But I want to assure you that the coordination that we have is actually very strong. And because we have a joint intelligence committee whereby we involve all stakeholders, and then we, you know, the intelligence has to be processed before even you reach the point of taking action. So we've actually been coordinating very well, and I think this has been a strength for us. Yeah, sure.
I was out of town over the weekend when the news started coming in, and
you felt like not coming back.
Well, there was that feeling also, but then there was a tremendous feel of security outside this town. I mean, people would say, oh, they're attacking Kampala. Okay. I mean, is it a false sense of security that terror attacks do not take place outside the capital or other, you know, huge cosmopolitan establishments? Or you never know. I mean, should people outside the capital, people watching us from the far-flung areas of this country, people watching us in your place in Lira, for example, you know, those who are watching us in Arua, those watching us from Kanungu, those watching us from Mount Moroto, should there be a sense of alertness on their part, or should they just go back about their business and not worry?
Yeah, sure.
Only worry about their relatives in Kampala?
No, actually our measures are general. They really cover the country. But if you've been monitoring, of course, the targets of the terrorists, of course, they'll look at where they can create as much collateral damage as possible. You've seen in New York, in Boston, and here in the neighborhood in Nairobi, in Nigeria. Okay, they don't go into the rural areas.
So there's no business going to attack a market in Minakulu.
A market in Minakulu, no. They'll want actually where, of course, they can send a political message and, of course, get to create fear. The objective is basically to create that fear in the public, that you know.
Tell me, aren't we already terrorized? I mean, just walking into the Serena here, looking like us entering a military garrison. No, there is an ASP standing there, watching the KK security, searching us from head to toe, even under the tongue. I mean, this is being terrorized. For
no, but it also helps in giving you that assurance, so that when you're doing your work here, you're not panicking. If there is something that a scratch around here, you're not distracted, okay? So that at least you go through the business as normally as so. And of course, it's our duty, of course, as security, really, to get to do our work. You know.
Fred, as we conclude this, of course, you've got, as the police or the security agencies, you've got a message, a very strong message to send to we, the citizens of this country. But you also possibly have a message to send out to the guys that are planning terror onto us. Is that a message that you want to say it in non-coded language, or is it one that you prefer?
No, our message has really been very clear to them. Because since 2010, they have tried on several occasions to get to hit Uganda.
Again.
Because they know that Uganda is an enemy to them. All right, we have actually disrupted their activities and within the region. You know, guys have turned terrorism into a very commercial and very profitable venture. And of course, when you really break that, even if it was you here at your
you don't touch
we come
my
and
lifeline.
we don't touch your lifeline. You know, we really don't touch your lifeline, like you say.
I know how they feel because this station has been closed twice, and
and we don't want to see a repeat of that. So yes, we have kept monitoring these cells since 2010. In between there, we've been coming up with a lot of alerts and also disruptive arrests. And people would come up and say, you know, this and this is fake intelligence and so. But we are now saying now, this is something that we really we really need to show you that whatever we've been doing, monitoring these cells, yes, because we have radical groups that could easily be recruited. Of course, some rebel activities and so on and so forth.
But Fred, of course,
but we want to inform the terrorists that Uganda, we are actually very ready, and we've been monitoring their cells here in the country, and let they dare bring more cells. We shall just dismantle
nip them in the bud.
Exactly.
That's a very clear message indeed, very robust and hard.
Sure.
But now let's look, as we conclude very quickly, let's look at the other side where now the likes of Maria Barnett will come in to say, look, the human rights of these guys that you have arrested is beyond 48 hours, which is stipulated by our laws. And anybody arrested should be arraigned before the courts of law within 48 hours, or anything beyond that would be an affront on their human rights. Are you cognizant of that? And when should
we are mindful. We are really very mindful of that. We've submitted the exhibits. We submitted them straight away. And the process of interrogation, where it requires bringing an interpreter, probably that is where the delay could be, and where they will require a lawyer. And these are things that are outside, okay, which are outside, of course, the police.
And, being a very nice communications manager here, but
being nice, but we really need to
when you talk about the delay caused by the presence of an interpreter, these guys are not speaking angelic language that you've got to go and bring an interpreter of angelic language from above the skies. But I'm sure they're speaking a language that I don't want to really be presumptuous, and since you've not told me anything, but I would want to imagine if you walk down, especially towards Kafumbe Mukasa Road, you could pick somebody that can translate this language for us.
Yeah, we have the means, of course. And yes, it's really good that they cooperate with us. But where they decide to be uncooperative, then they will be abusing their rights. We demand, we request for their cooperation, then we arraign them in court.
Are they being cooperative anyway, so far?
Of course, we got some leads already that helped us in expanding and bringing the number from 16 to 19.
Wow, tremendous.
Yes.
Well, it's just only an inclusion of 3. Possibly would have expected more if that's all they are there.
Exactly.
Fred, as always, we do thank you for taking time
off.
Always during such busy times for you to come and share with us information, and of course, waking up very early in the morning.
Of course, I had to come very early
and share with us this information.
Sure.
We certainly will keep our tabs on this story as it's developing. We shall keep our tabs with you, and please keep your lines as always open. Ugandans always want to know exactly what's happening, especially when it's a matter of such importance as their security.
Exactly.
Well, I think with that, there's no certainly need for Simon says, because matters of security certainly are very self-explanatory, and at the risk of watering down the message coming in from the police, it is always very important to leave it at that, for you to be the interpreter, and of course for you to understand in the best way you know how what exactly it means. Of course, that also means that in the wake of such continuous and imminent terror threats onto our country and on our people, it's very important for you to use the best asset that you have with you, which is your eyes.
Exactly.
Your senses will be the best thing that will avert us. And of course, you know, the police, for all its follies, at least will react very quickly and swiftly when it comes to reports of such a nature. So when you observe something peculiar, when you observe something that is not in the usual, when you observe a suspicious somebody or something, please do not hesitate. Get down to find the nearest way you can, or the fastest way you can contact any authority and leave this information to the police. Of course, like he said, Fred Enanga, terror cells are not in the nether. They are within us. They are communities within us. So when you see suspicious activities around the neighborhood or even a house, try to find out exactly what's going on inside there and report the matter to police. They will certainly save many lives. Like they say, a stitch in time saves 9. Have a wonderful morning. Let's be productive. Let's have a fresh week to the start. And of course, let us continue to be as vigilant as we possibly can. God bless.
Amen.
Thanks for that.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for their NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am a Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fascistic code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only 2 individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which we have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries. From wherever we are, we talk business, and at Money Matters, where money indeed matters. Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
Guess what show just won Best Entertainment Program?
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV, thanks for the support.
Log in, ndiwa nole ronzi ze kukakasa.
You're Golfy and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's Login.
We could do this all
night. We could do this all night.
at all the juices that are in there, and that is what I'm looking for. My goodness, look at that.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
A very good morning to you, wherever you're joining us from the studio to the rooftop, and of course, some of you may be watching this show in your offices, at your home, on your telephone. That is if you have a smartphone, not a China phone. But NTV has gone mobile. Just go to your Google Play Store and type NTV Mobi, M-O-B-I, and you can watch us from wherever you are. This morning, before the big story, we had Fred Enanga, who is a police spokesperson, and he was talking about how Uganda averted the threat over the weekend, and a couple of things that he talked about. He said since 2010, they have tried several times to hit Uganda again, and we have disrupted the activities in the region. We have kept watch on these cells, and we have carried out disruptive arrests. Enanga sounded very, very authoritative here and assertive, and told, I want to tell the terrorists that Uganda is ready. We have been watching you for a very long time. Now, of course, you can tell us what you think about this and more on our Facebook page, where some of you have commented. And this morning, many of you commending Fred Enanga for the awesome work that they're doing. Says our measures are general. Terrorists look at where they can create as much collateral damage as possible. And a couple of comments here coming in. Lugana Thomas saying, of course, they want to also make a statement. And Odoch Jackie asking why would they want to kill innocent people. Again, here at Morning at NTV, we encourage you to be very vigilant, report anything suspicious or anyone suspicious to the authorities, and let us make sure that we stay safe. Now, smart patients do one thing. They go and look for a doctor before they get sick. But what if you own a company? Which doctor would you need before you get into trouble? Coming up in Everyday Life. On Everyday Life is Davis Wesley Tumusime, who is a lawyer, a liar. I think they are called liars. Morning, Davis. They usually say liars. What are you doing? Why don't you sue people who defame? Isn't that defamation? No, it's not. First of all, why aren't you allowed to advertise? I'm told lawyers are not allowed to advertise for their services.
Well, as far as our legal entity is concerned, and the way we practice our law here in Uganda, the advocates' rules do not allow us to advertise. Well, that is the law.
Right.
The reason, we don't know. But though in some jurisdictions, like in Kenya, recent, they are allowed to advertise for their services. Hope the same will soon come to Uganda. But the moment, we'll take the law as it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Davis is from Mwema and Mugerwa Advocates and Solicitors. And Davis, this morning, invited you to talk about what companies or why companies need lawyers, patients need doctors, and many of us will go get a medical checkup before we get the disease. Companies, you know, many companies obviously don't have enough lawyers, but we want you to help us this morning understand why it's important for companies to get legal services before that legal problem comes in. And I'll start with, you know, just asking you, what are some of the, say, most common legal issues that companies get?
Well, Brian, well, upon incorporation of the company or upon registration of the company, you know, we have a saying that it becomes a separate legal entity from the members or the shareholders that do constitute the company. Because the company is owned by the shareholders or from the members. But on top of it being a separate legal entity, and upon its incorporation, a number of wide-ranging legal issues do arise. So by virtue of its distinction, you realize that the company can also sue. In other words, can take someone to court, an individual or a person. It can be sued. It can enter into contracts. Now, in all these wide-ranging legal issues that arise, especially entering into contracts, because that would be the sole purpose of creating a company, and more so a private limited liability company with shares. They're supposed, it's being set up for a business purpose, and they're going to enter into contracts. And in most cases, it's these contracts that they enter into that do bring problems. Now, you realize that unlike these other multinational corporations or the fully fledged companies, most of the companies that some of the people or the individuals setting up, they're actually starting from scratch. I mean, you and I, you go, you've saved some little money, and somewhere, somehow, you realize that there is a company or there is a government entity that requires a service, and you feel you can provide that service. But they will want a company to deal with the company than an individual, because it's quite easier to deal with a company than an individual. The notion being that companies may own some properties, or they would be having some bank accounts, there's money on the bank account. So when you enter into these contracts, at times you fail to deliver. Quite time than not, they fail to deliver, and you end up going to court. So by going to court is a reason as to why you failed to deliver.
In the work that you've done, especially for small businesses, you know, I guess big companies have a legal department set up and it's working every day. Well, that's because largely they have so many cases. I know a telecom company here that is every day in court. But what scares small companies to acquire legal services or put a lawyer like Davis on their payroll?
Well, small or big, all of them fall into the ambit of a company. But these other ones who are actually starting from scratch, they tend to have a notion that lawyers are expensive. Because, first of all, you may not need a lawyer to register a company, so long as you can fulfill the necessary requirements. All right? If you can fulfill the necessary requirements, you can go and register a company on your own. And this is quite business that's going on quite time than not at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. But the problem comes in when the actual business of the company is going to start. All right? Now, because they believe that a lawyer is expensive, they cannot afford to pay a lawyer on retainer, either monthly or quarterly or yearly, that they're expensive. And some may not be having the money to do so. They end up doing the business on their own. This is where they end up making mistakes. And by making mistakes, when a legal issue arises, then they end up paying more than they would have paid when they had hired a lawyer and put a lawyer on retainer.
Say, I don't know if you are, but you're saying to say the amount. Okay, give us a range of how much. I don't know if you charge hours. Do you charge like, I take 200,000 shillings per hour? Does that work in Uganda?
Well, we have the advocates, there are rules concerning remuneration of advocates. So depending on the work done, that's how you are supposed to charge, all right? And it is also somewhere, somehow, an offense that you're not allowed to undercharge. Supposed to charge within the law.
Okay.
And you're also not allowed to overcharge. But at some point in time, you realize that at the end of it all, it's all about negotiating. Because I look at the rules, probably I'm looking at what I'm supposed to charge when it comes to aspects of floating companies or registering a company, or you're entering into a land transaction, there's a certain percentage that the lawyer is supposed to earn. All right, here we don't charge hourly or something like the way it is in those other developed jurisdictions.
Yes.
You can charge per the rules. But I will get the fees, then I give you my fee note. Then we can negotiate. You'll tell me, yeah, okay, this I think too much, I'll give you this. We can agree. But at times, people may not have the benefit of coming to that stage. Why? They are biased.
Right.
That lawyers are expensive. So I cannot really actually point at a figure, but all I can say is that we have rules that we follow when it comes to charging clients.
And it's a bit expensive for some people.
Depending on the subject matter.
All right.
Yes.
This man is a real lawyer. Well, some people have said, for example, there are things that I do not need, a lawyer for, and things like writing a business plan. Do I need a lawyer? Do I need to pay someone? For example, handling audits. Maybe URA is you need to submit a few things to URA. Do I need a lawyer there?
Well, you have people who are experienced in writing business plans. If you're going to write a business, even at times lawyers or advocates, you may contact someone who's experienced. We've done that before at our firm. We're supposed to write a business plan, write a business proposal. There's an individual who's well versed in it. We contacted him. We got our input. He gave us his input. At the end of it all, we came up with a business plan, no proposal. So there you may not need a lawyer, though some lawyers are experienced in writing business proposals, depending on the area that you intend to look at. Then the aspect of audits. You have audit companies. This country is flooded with auditors, right? So these auditors are schooled or are trained in aspects of auditing, and they are good at it. Though some lawyers also can do the auditing, but that when you leave it to the auditors, and you may not need a lawyer to carry that out for you.
Right.
And at times, as we're talking about companies and carrying out businesses, you realize that most of these big companies, they have external auditors. They want to audit their reports, or they want to audit their financials. They'll contact companies like KPMG. They are going to contact companies like, or audit firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers. Those are experienced in that. You may not need a lawyer. But when going to mention a lawyer, you're going to talk about contracts, you're going to talk about legal-related aspects, like court matters. That's where we are specially schooled.
I guess, can you help us and understand, especially for small business owners, what the good in getting a lawyer? Whether they don't put them on a payroll, but once in a while for a lawyer to come, maybe look at your books or do an update. If you need to do an update, what are the benefits of having a lawyer for your company?
Well, the benefits are quite many, but I'll point out a few. And this takes us back to the beginning, when talking about the difference between the members and the shareholders and the company itself. So Brian, you've got your money, you have formed a company, or you floated a company, you've registered a company. We tend to have this notion that this is my company, this is me, all right? But again, the law says that they are separate. It is on its own, on your own, all right? It can own something that you will not own. If it is owning property, the property is not yours, all right? Now, if we come to these private limited liability companies that have shares, here you're going to realize that your liability, the liability is what you're meant to be doing, is restricted to the amount of shares that you are holding, okay? And you as an individual, you are not answerable for the actions of the company, okay? So if the company entered into a debt, they're not going to come and attach your property. They will attach the property of the company, unless you had entered into aspects like of personal guarantees. You guaranteed that, okay, if the company fails to pay, I as Brian Molondo, I'll be able to pay. So if it fails, then the law will come for you, all right? Now, these are some of the situations whereby you're going to need a lawyer to advise you.
Yeah.
To advise you on your relationship and the company that you created. You know, as soon as you create it, you're going to be dealing with various individuals, okay? People are going to come in and buy shares in your company. They're going to become other shareholders. You're going to enter into contracts with third parties. So you realize that what began as a relationship between you and your company, it has unfurled like an umbrella and is dealing with very many people. So very many people have interests in that company, like creditors of the company, the people that you do owe the money. You get the point?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with them? How do you safeguard, like for instance, your property from that of the company? If you entered into legal issues, how would you be protected? How would the company be protected? This is where you're going to need the services of a lawyer. This is where they are experienced. This is where they will be able to advise you on how to go about your issues. Okay? So, as we say, that it's not until that they have landed into problems that they are going to come back and ask Brian and say, please, do help me. I have this very big problem. They are going to sell my company. They are going to attach my property. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They have attached the company's shares or the company's money in the bank. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Yet, were you to be in touch with the lawyer from the time you are registering this company from the beginning, and that every transaction you're trying to enter into, you contacted the lawyer, you will not land into some of these problems. Though at times, some of the problems cannot be avoided.
Yes, yes.
There are some unforeseeable circumstances that may arise, and you end up getting into the problems much as you had the lawyer. But at least forewarned means forearmed. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of questions here. What are the legal implications of liquidating a company or saying you are bankrupt?
Well,
this is a very good question, Dave, because there are people who will, if they have so many debts, they'll go to the court and say, me, I'm a bankrupt guy. I have no money. So, and of course, in the event of that, you'll have to forego your money.
Yeah, so at times some of these situations arise in cases whereby you'll find that maybe the company is unable to pay all its debts. It has quite a number of creditors, and you go and apply for bankruptcy. So in this instance, you might ask court to appoint an official receiver or a receiver, whereby someone will come, take over the company or the management of the company, so as to realize the debts, they pay off the creditors, then there you can come back and take over your company. Those are some of the legal implications.
Does that work? Like, even on personal terms, like if someone, if I have your money and I go and declare myself bankrupt, okay, now, I don't know if you've dealt with this before, but do people actually respect this?
Yeah, they do. There are
you'll pay my money.
There are some people that we know that have actually petitioned for bankruptcy, and they have gotten away with it, definitely, because, I mean, that's what the law requires. If you're unable to do so, there's always a window that you can use. If the door is closed, there's always a window that you can use.
Right.
And so some people that we know of, I mean, I won't mention the names, but they have petitioned for bankruptcy, all right?
Right.
So it does happen. That is another way of saving you if you are in debts.
Okay.
Yes.
I will call you back to talk more about this liquidation of companies and, of course, declaring yourself bankrupt, because I know lots of people think about doing that when they've failed to pay their creditors. But, of course, continue our conversation in the morning at NTV, our Facebook page, and let us start. William Shakespeare said the first thing we'll do, let's kill all lawyers. But we don't want you to go there because you're that lawyer might be the one.
No, you need us, you can't kill us.
Yeah.
And even if you kill us, you don't get rid of all of us. Yes. Even you yourself as Brian, you have a lawyer in you. Actually, even if you went to court, you can represent yourself. That's if you're well versed with the procedures of court and with the law. Yes. You can represent yourself. So if you kill the profession of the lawyer, then you yourself, you have the lawyer in you.
There you have it. And Isma is standing by on the other side. Isma, I know who will not be needing a lawyer, and that is Louis Van Gaal, because he got his first win by thrashing to what some people have branded.
Oh, were incredible yesterday.
QPR.
Who were incredible.
Who are incredible. QPR, like David says. Is this the start of the rebranding of Manchester United?
Yeah, actually, our season begins today.
Very poor. I've got to say that you cannot win the league title in the first 4 games, but you could lose it there. And Manchester United, with the start of the season they've had, it was very important to beat up on QPR. I remember telling you on Friday that I don't think United are yet in crisis, but failing to beat QPR, who had shipped in for at White Hart Lane against Tottenham, would have been a crisis, a huge, huge crisis for Louis van Gaal. That is sorted, the crisis averted, thanks to Angel Di Maria. We'll talk about Manchester United. There's a bit of Arsenal. Last season, and against Manchester City, Chelsea, and Liverpool, they shipped in 17 goals. They are luckier this time because they didn't lose over the weekend. We'll also talk about one of the most interesting games I watched over the weekend. AC Milan 5, Parma 4. What else can you say about that?
Mourinho would brand that it was a netball game. But we'll be looking at that, and of course, without Mrs. Mujereza this morning. Congratulations, Mabel, who is away on her honeymoon. We'll be back with Isma and I Talking Sport. Thanks, Davis, for coming.
Thank you, Brian, for
stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Hello, is this Munji?
Yo, this is Munji.
I am feeling your new Virgin Jam right now. It is off the hook.
Thanks, man. I'm also feeling you. Seducer.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day. Airtel. Together we can.
Look at all the juices that are in there, and that is what I'm looking for. My goodness, look at that.
Aro, give me 5 stress, 3 gonorrhea.
Kale muli wano, you think you've brought capasas? Omwana yena sobolo gamba super deep. Si miaka jafe.
I'm like, I like my swag too. So what about it? Then she was like, I also like your accent. That village accent. Now.
Okay, why didn't sign for when you got political Tayaka no Mozanga Nakajawa?
Katina Kambuza, why are you crying?
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover. Put that in Kiprochichi's accent.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover.
Guess what show just won Best Entertainment Program?
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV. Thanks for the support.
Login ndi wano lero nzize kukakasa.
Your coffee and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's login.
We could do this all night. We could do this all night.
The average age of the entire national team is under 18. And so
The primary role of Team Uganda is to remain to Division 2.
Probably that's the only thing that can make one or two rugby fans smile, that the clubs are doing well.
The players haven't put on they haven't wore the game faces. They're not the animals we saw last season, because Ferguson had the same group of players and he did deliver the Holy Grail, which is the title. The banter on this floor is awesome. What a weekend it was, Isma.
Yes. I probably averaged 2 weddings here. And this year I've already attended 2 weddings. And attending Mabel's was quite a thing. If I go back, the other wedding I attended is for my friend Becca Chigongo, who we grew up with. He works at Beat FM. So to attend another, I've only attended weddings of people in the media. That's extremely sad.
Yeah, like family members.
Yeah, now that's 2 weddings. Invite me for a third, please.
Break the record.
Yeah, because if I attended a third, that would be 3 weddings in 1 year.
Yeah.
It would feel so different. That would be too much for me. But congratulations, Mabel.
Well,
but you know there are things that are basic about weddings. You must say the bride looks stunning. I've not heard someone who said the bride was not smart. So maybe I'll keep the norm and say you looked stunning.
But she did. She actually did. Impeccable. Yeah, you know, brilliant reception party. Yeah. Tomorrow we'll play for you a clip of what transpired at the wedding. Beautiful, beautiful by the lady.
Are you playing the song?
And the song too. We'll probably play the song when Mabel returns, you know, when we're celebrating. But the congratulations to the Muherezas this morning. And of course, you know, some sad news. Very good friend of mine lost her mother, and we had to go down to Masaka to bury her. Very, very sad. You know, she just collapsed, and all of us are asking, how does someone just collapse? And postmortem says she probably had some fat in the veins, and so I guess go for a medical checkup if you can, please. If you can this morning, go and check out doctor. Talking sport this morning, 6 wins in a row. On Friday we were debating 5 in 5. Will they do 6 in 6? Now they did it, but then all of a sudden, they fall to KIU. How did that happen?
I didn't see this result coming, but I've got to say this is the best game that KIU has played in a long while. And I thought at the start of the season when they got in Sam Gombia coming in from Warriors, they're going to be very competitive. They haven't been because they've lost all the games that matter. And then on Friday, they decide to play their best game, 70-68 the final score. Actually, this is coming down to the final play where Ivan Enabo and Steven Yoki has both missed their shots to tie the game and probably send it into overtime for the Warriors. But I've got to say, KIU, as good for their result as they could have been, shared the ball quite well. You look at their stat sheet, and only one player had double figures, 11 points. But there are so many 9s and 8s all over the stat sheet, which tells the story of a team that shared the responsibility in terms of scoring. And that's the reason for me. KIU's Henry Mwinuka must be feeling so pleased about how they played on Friday. If they play like this every other week, probably they will be in the running to get to the semi-finals and probably the final. But that's just one drop in the ocean, I think, for KIU. They would want to repeat this kind of performance.
Of course, 2 wins, 2 losses for Uganda in the 50-over event in South Africa. Isma, draw the line for us.
I thought, first of all, in the bigger scheme of things, the national cricket team is only in South Africa prepare for the World Cricket League. So we can only make a judgment on what they've done in South Africa after they do host that World Cricket League here next month. But I've got to say, in the games that they won, they made heavyweight of their chases against Zimbabwe and against Tanzania. Then on the other hand, the games they lost, they were hammered badly by Kenya, who put on over 300, and Namibia, who put on 349 on Saturday, and Uganda could only reply with 199 all out. So I've got to say there's a lot of work that you've got to look at. One, I look at the fact that they played very well in the very pressure situation where you have to, where it's a lot more tense, they got those results. But then, in the other games where they shipped in 300, I'm thinking, where were the ballers, where was the fielding? You cannot go and concede 300 runs and expect to win games. So I think for the coach there, Peter Casten, who has only met his team for the very first time over the past 2-3 weeks, he's learned a lot about areas he needs to improve. But probably the biggest plus from that tournament has got to be Roger Mukasa. He's been scoring runs after runs. If he plays like this, Uganda stand a chance in next month World Cricket League here.
And that has been our problem.
Batting.
Yes, batting. We're never...
Yeah, we've always been a very good bowling and fielding side, but we never bat as well. Now, for Roger Mukasa and Athache, who are the cornerstones of this batting lineup, this has got to be the start of what they could do when the World Cricket League comes here next month. I've got to say that beyond Roger Mukasa, I've not seen meaningful contributions consistent. You could say Davis Karashani put on a 30, and then there was a 70 from Arthur Chobe in one of the games against Zimbabwe. But will they do that consistently? Only Roger Mukasa has done it consistently all over this tour. So they've got to join him, and the band will sound much better if all of them are playing well.
All right. May the weather against Maidana the second was the same way as the first. Did we blow the... Yes, were we over-expectant?
You know, everything that is Mayweather is about the man himself. And you've seen, I can't wait to get my cap that has TMT, the money team, in black and orange. Most of them are white, but I don't think I'd wear a white one with the kind of dusty roads we have here. When we wears it in the US, it's fine, because it's Las Vegas, where is the dust? But I've got to say, eventually at the end of the fight, it's unfortunate that the discussion is about the biting, because Marcos Maidana actually did try to bite Mayweather. He eventually only beat him on the glove, but there was a deliberate attempt to bite Mayweather's wrist. And actually, for a latter part of the fight, from around round 8, Mayweather could barely use his left hand because it had gone a bit numb, and he couldn't use it that much. But I've got to say, in terms of the fight itself, Maidana looked still raw. It didn't look like he has improved from the first fight. He gave it a go, threw punches, but not eventually scoring. And you look at the judges' scorecards, all the 3 judges got the same score. 10-9, 10-9, 10-9 for 12 rounds, and it was a unanimous decision for Mayweather. And I've got to say, while this may not be the most impressive because he went down on 2 or 3 occasions, some slid, some got hit by punches from Maidana, eventually it was good for the result. But for me, the disappointment is probably Maidana didn't fight as well as I'd expected. In the first fight, he fought much better. He wasn't the same on Saturday, and that has got to come with the pressure dealing with it. When you fight Mayweather, you're always the underdog, and when you fight him once and do well, the expectations of you going into another fight are so high. But this time, Mayweather, good for the result, I've got to say.
This should be good. You know, he has one more fight to retire.
He says he has 2 more.
He has 2. This was his 48.
47.
Oh. Okay.
This is 47-0. And he says he has 2 more because the greatest boxer at welterweight has 49-0 and is retired. So there's talk that Mayweather will fight until he equals that record of 49-0, or probably he'll break it and go one better and do 50-0, then retire. But at least he said he's going to retire in 2015, regardless of what happens. And at 37, he better walks quick. He may get knocked out of the ring soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's growing old. All right, let's talk the English Premier League. Let's start with the biggest news. Man United finally getting the result. Is this the addition of the, Di Maria? Did they finally, are we seeing a rebranding? You know, I think it was a Jules saying, we are rebranding. You bring Chelsea.
I think, first of all, before the game, everyone said this is the start of a new era, because most of the new players you've spoken about, with the exception of Di Maria, have not got a chance to play in this team. Dele Blind, Marcos Rojo, Luke Shaw, Angel Di Maria, and then Radamel Falcao. I've got to say that I would love to see a United play the way they played yesterday. A United that go out and play attacking football with all the flair, because every team has got to play to their strength. I look at United and I see a very strong side going forward. I don't think they're that good defensively. Or when you still have Tyler Blackett, who is still learning his trade, you still have Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, and all the other guys. I don't think the amount of attacking talent they have in Falcao, who actually, before yesterday, had scored 155 in 200 games, or in his last 200 games. That's quite a record. You've got to say that they got to play attacking football. And to see Di Maria play the way he did, he got the first goal and was involved in all four, set up one matter, and the other goals from Wayne Rooney also on the score sheet and under Herrera. You've got to say that United are going to, for me, the bigger thing, they're going to profit from playing one game a week. Because, Brian, from this weekend, from the past 2 days, the top 4 teams in England will play 7 games in 21 days. That is quite a strain on all the teams. Now, on the other hand, United, who on the fixture list have the easier fixtures, if you look at the teams they played so far, Burnley, Sunderland, QPR, and Swansea, they have 1 game a week. Now, if Van Gaal can't get this right, he has no business being United manager. If you cannot beat up on teams playing 1 game a week with Di Maria for 59 million, with Falcao, with the kind of salary he's taking, about 60 million pounds a year, with Dele Blin, Marcos Rojo reached a World Cup final, you don't deserve to be United manager. And I've got to say that one of the things that he did very well probably yesterday, he got rid of that three centre-backs, because I don't think it works in England. Many teams have tried it and failed. He's back to a flat backline of 4 defenders, and the results are United scoring 4-0. That's got to be a big bonus for him.
If he does not take the Premier League, is there a chance, is there a likelihood that he's going to be out?
No,
because on the premise that he's been playing 1 game a week.
No, I don't think.
If out of the blue, say Chelsea reached the Champions League final, and given the schedule that they have, take the Premier League too.
No, I don't think for this season it's about winning the Premier League. It's about getting back into Champions League football. United belong to Champions League football. Even if they've spent £150 million to sign all the players they brought in, I think it's going to be given a bit of time. But then thereafter, everyone involved with United will expect him to win the Premier League next season. But they've got to get back.
So this is about reorganizing the team and getting a Champions League spot.
Exactly.
Perfect. Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal supporter, and I must say I can't believe it was a 2-2. I think it was a great performance from the Arsenal.
I think not necessarily great, but a good performance, because they started the better side. They should have taken the lead. Danny Welbeck had his shot strike the post. And then thereafter, Man City take the lead and look imperious. They look like they're going to score 2, 3, or 4. And last season, Man City, in the situation where Aguero scored, they would go and beat us by 4-5 goals. Yes, on Saturday that didn't happen, because Arsenal responded and scored twice through Jack Wilshere, I think, got the equalizer. And thereafter, Man City had to fight back and had Martin Demichelis get the equalizer. For me, the bigger story, Brian, is not about the result per se. First of all, I didn't expect Arsenal to lose the game. With the exception of last season when Man City beat up on Arsenal by 6-3, Arsenal always have Man City's number. They always compete, they always get a result of Man City. But for me, it was about the message mentally that Arsenal are going to get after the events of last season. Remember, last year, Arsenal shipped in 6 against Man City, 6 against Chelsea, 5 against Liverpool. And actually, Per Mertesacker, the German defender, said that they struggled to play at 2:45, which is 12:45 in London, because it's a lot hotter than the usual conditions. And for me, I thought it was important mentally, first to get something out of the game. They should be very, very pleased with the result they got. So with Man City, I thought towards the end, although Man City tried to win the game quite a bit, but I think both teams were comfortable with the 2-2. Fair result for me.
4-4 for Chelsea. How special is Diego Costa?
Wow. I don't remember a striker who is got off in his first 4 games in the Premier League, and then as well as Diego Costa. If you have one, our Facebook and Twitter handles are there. Since the Premier League came to the screens in Uganda,
the spike of Nemo stars.
Exactly. Probably since the Premier League came to our TV screens back in 1996, there is no striker who has got off this way. 7 goals in 4 games. And when Jose Mourinho calls him special, you're thinking it's Mourinho's arrogance. But Chelsea were struggling with their strikers in recent years since Didier Drogba left. Now they have someone who gives them a chance of winning every game. I remember I have this thing about teams that have Ronaldo, Suarez, and Messi, that you have a chance to win every game because they could score out of nothing. But then on the other hand, while you could say Diego Costa is scoring, That hat-trick against Swans when they won the game by 4-2, I thought is the easiest hat-trick anyone will get. It was barely challenged. Okay, the interplay between Hazard and Fabregas created so much space, but every time he hit the ball, there was no one within him, within a distance of probably 4-5 meters for him to score. But I've got to say that Chelsea are much happier having Diego Costa there. And for everyone who thought they were favourites at the start of the season, to go and win 4 games in 4 is, for me, it's just to emphasize why Chelsea will be favourites for as long as they are winning games. And probably when they lose 1 or 2, everyone will say, probably people like Ismail were wrong about Chelsea. I've got to say, every time I've watched them, I'm thinking, can they just hand them the title and they keep it until someone takes it away from them?
Well, Costa is definitely worth the money.
Yeah.
We'll see what Chelsea delivers there. But what a shocker. Ben Mwine announcing this at Mabel's wedding, and I know it was very, very, very sad. Even Mabel's father, who supports Liverpool, the spirit was dampened a bit.
Yeah.
Is it the absence of Sterling that is causing this?
He was rested over the weekend, and it is a big problem, I think, for all managers at this point in time, especially those that are playing the 7 games in 21 days. How do you keep your best players fresh and hungry? And that's exactly what Brendan Rodgers did, deciding to leave Sturridge on the bench for 60 minutes, rather Sterling on the bench for 60 minutes in the absence of Daniel Sturridge. Probably that was a mistake, because you've got to play the games that are before you.
Yeah.
Try to win that before you change anything. But I've got to say that also, on the other hand, while everyone could point out on Raheem Sterling, Liverpool never beat Aston Villa. Whether Liverpool are playing well or not, last season at Anfield, the game ended 2-2. But that's because Liverpool came from 2 goals down to draw 2-2. They lost 3-1 at Villa Park. This is the game that somehow Villa know how to play. And I think the reason why Villa play well against Liverpool, because they have the perfect setup that will trouble Liverpool. They play with a lot of pace because of Gabriel Agbonlaho, Andres Weimann, Chris Adbeteko is currently out injured. You've got to say that the way they play will trouble Liverpool, because Liverpool love to keep the ball and knock it around. Now, Aston Villa love to break out at pace. And now when you play that way against Liverpool, you stand a chance. And for me, that's partly the reason they lost. But Liverpool were pathetic on Saturday evening. They had 1 shot on target in 90 minutes.
Wow.
And this is a side that finished second in the league. And probably are going to start feeling the pressure of having to play 2 games in 3 days, something they didn't have last season when they finished second. Now they have a game in the Champions League tomorrow. Now, how they cope and then change around the squad and keep it fresh. But I think Rodgers is starting to change the squad a little to his life. I thought, regardless of whether Sterling played twice for England, he should have been on the pitch, give himself the chance. Though, in the bigger scheme of things, Aston Villa, no Liverpool.
Speaking of pathetic, Madrid, 2 defeats right now.
Yeah.
Is Atletico bringing the pressure on?
I think they are. For 14 years, Atletico Real Madrid was a foregone conclusion. Real Madrid would go and beat Atletico regardless of how well Atletico played. But now, ever since Atletico won that Super Cup 2 years, rather the Spanish Cup 2 years ago, that's the Copa del Rey, they've been in Madrid's face. I thought Madrid would win the Super Cup earlier this season. Atletico won it. I thought Madrid would probably go. Look at a team that is going down a drain. You're thinking it's going to stop at some point. Now, for Monaco, the end is not in sight. They've lost. They've won only 1 game out of the opening 5. The sale of Falcao, the loan move of Falcao to Manchester United and then James Rodriguez to Real Madrid has left the team bare going forward. They lost to Monaco over the weekend by 2-1. Rather, they lost to Lyon by 2-1. Lyon, who have not been playing well, they're only winning for the 2nd time this season. But I've got to say that you look at Monaco and you see a team in trouble. The fans want their tickets back. Those who had bought season tickets, they are asking for a refund from the team. And people are not coming to the games because they are in protest because of what has happened. And this all starts from a domestic problem of the owner. The Russian billionaire who owns Monaco is actually going through a divorce settlement with his wife, and actually is devoting all his resources to winning the divorce settlement because his wife could run away with how much? $50 million if the divorce is finalized. So all this has gone straight into the team, and Monaco, a team that finished 2nd in the French League 1 last season, and actually are playing the Champions League this season, are in deep, deep trouble. I actually fear for their future, to be honest. I fear for them.
Wow. The future seems to be very bright for Kagawa.
Yeah.
Made a Prince-like return at Dortmund. Is he going to be a catalyst?
Sure is going to be. He got the first goal when they beat up on Freiburg by 3-1. And he was a totally different Kagawa.
Yeah.
From the man who was suffering at Old Trafford and went through all that pain of not playing or playing very few games, probably failed to fit in for me at Manchester United. But when he plays for Dortmund, when he's back in the yellow and black, he's a totally different player. And actually, I think for me, for Jurgen Klopp, he comes in at the very right time when they needed him. Because they have Marco Reus out injured. They have Jakub Blaszczykowski out injured. Nuri Sahin is out injured. Ilkay Gundogan probably will never be fit because he hasn't been fit for 1 year. Maximus is out injured. So they have a lot of holes to clog. And Ciro Immobile, who they signed from Torino, is taking a bit of time to become very competitive. So he's still on the bench. I've got to say that for Kagawa to come in and start the way he did, it's got to be the biggest bonus to Jurgen Klopp's side. And Dortmund, if they're going to compete against Bayern Munich, they need their squad to be deep and people to be contributing. And Shinji Kagawa is exactly the player who only prospers per President Michel Platini, who warned him that he plays for Bayern, having refused to play for France. He will be banned from football. But Ribéry retired, and actually I spoke to the national team coach, Didier Deschamps, and they agreed that he retires. He's 31, probably wants to prolong his club career. And actually with him, I think Bayern look better. And tomorrow we'll be talking about Bayern against Manchester City, and that's where I think Ribéry will be very important, because all the Bayern players, most of them, because of the way Guardiola plays, they love to ball, they knock the ball around. Now, Ribéry is one of the more direct players who will attack the fullback and go in. All the other guys, Mario Götze, who got the other goal, or the other midfielders within the team, Philip Lahm, they love to play square and a bit, keep possession. Now, in Ribéry and Robben, having the two of them, they attack the defense. And having Ribéry makes Bayern a much better team than they were without him.
Right.
Yeah.
What's his name? Fernando Torres.
Yeah.
It should be a good move for him.
AC Milan.
Yeah, but his debut was on the weekend. How did it do?
Eventually, Fernando Torres was pulled out of the team just before kickoff because of an injury. But AC Milan, what a game. I've got to say, had Milan lost the game, probably Diego Lopez would be looking for a new job. They won the game by 5 goals to go against Parma, 5-4. Milan away from home. This is a Parma side that beat them twice last season. Now, for Filippo Inzaghi, Torres has got to be a contributor. I thought that even if they got goals, Bonaventura, Jeremy Menez scored a blinder when Milan was struggling, because every time they scored, they took a 3-1 lead, then Parma scored, they score a fourth, Parma score a third, they score a fifth, Parma score a fourth. And actually the fourth was comical because Diego Lopez clearly lost sight of the ball. But for Filippo Inzaghi, as he's trying to find the balance, and he had Daniel Borena set off at the back, and also had Alexis limp off with an injury, they've got to get the ball to Torres when he does start playing. Because I looked at the backline, the Parma backline, and I thought there was a chance for anyone running behind it. I also thought that for everything that Milan have not been in recent years, probably Inzaghi would be the best person to get the business. And being best is relative, because I thought when they signed Clarence Seedorf, it was a bit of a huge mistake. Now Inzaghi has been working with the youth side at AC Milan before coming into the senior side. If eventually they go and compete for the Serie A, which I don't think they will, probably they get back in the Champions League, it'll be a big bonus for Inzaghi. But for him to do that, they need to get Fernando Torres onto that pitch and playing regularly and playing well.
Right. Talk about Juventus at home.
Probably every Juve game for me when they are playing at the Juventus Stadium in Turin is a foregone conclusion before kickoff. The latest was a 2-0 win over Udinese. Carlos Tevez scored his first goal of the season, and then Claudio Marchisio got the second. But while Udinese would be a competitive side a few years ago, they were barely competitive in this one. And I've got to say that while the coaching staff has changed, Antonio Conte is gone and it's Massimiliano Allegri, Juventus are so strong at home against all the sides they play in the Serie A that they've only lost twice. They've only lost 2 games in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that is quite a record. And I've got to say that everything that Juventus have done, they've won the last 3 Serie A titles, has been down to how well they play at home. And they go and win 18 of the 19 games they play at the Juventus Stadium, and thereafter, they're untouchable. This season, they've won 2. Probably Allegri hasn't been as convincing as Conte because he comes with already a lot of criticism. He failed at AC Milan. Everyone thinks he's not a very good coach. And here he is. Juventus are winning. And probably they'll be right there, I think, for me in the conversation, even if Roma will keep a bit of a chase on them, because Roma also won their game over the weekend by 1-0 away from home at Empoli. But Juventus, when they play at home, in the Serie A, I'm always thinking How many will they score? They don't score many, probably 1 or 2, but sorry, it's enough for them.
They
to
always
games.
get the 3 points.
Yeah.
Well, Isma will be back at 1:30 p.m. Lots of action over the weekend.
And I haven't even told you about Inter Milan. They scored 7. Barcelona Neymar scored twice. If you don't watch Omumuli, miss your lunch.
1:30 p.m. You'll have more. And of course, at night, Sports Bar from Club Silk, 10 p.m. Brian, Patrick, and Aisha will be bringing you 411. And a comment here, Team K saying, Man United have just improved against the bottom half table teams. No Champions League again. Okay, and too much.
I've got to remind him of one thing. I think to win the league or to compete in the top echelon of the Premier League, beat the bottom 10. For me, that's always been the trick. That's always been the trick. Because after that, the points between the top 4 are shared out. Teams share the points and need to beat the bottom 10.
Okay, Bikaruga Sarah, your question will be answered very, very soon. But a reminder that we have gone mobile, NTV mobile. And tomorrow I'll be showing you how to work it on my phone. Let me, but yeah, I can access NTV on my phone.
So you're watching yourself right now?
Let me just try it. NTV Mobile is our latest app. You can watch NTV from wherever you are. Yes, I'm watching myself. I'm on. It's already in.
Yeah.
Gonya, please don't. Otherwise, the Gonya will eat you up. So there we are. You see, we are there. And tomorrow we'll have a clear view of this, and you can watch. You can just go to your Google Play Store and download NTV Mobi, the app. Until tomorrow, have a fantastic, fantastic day. The week ahead is going to be awesome. And remember, the minority creative are the ones who change the world. Make sure you're part of those. Bye-bye.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.